Shalom, shalom, brothers.
Yo, what's up? Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
What's good? What's good? What's good?
Not much, man. What's happening?
Back in the building, back on the ones and twos.
Missed y'all two brothers these weeks.
Word.
Glad y'all back.
Word.
Know what I mean?
Y'all been holding it down.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate that.
Take a little trip real quick, but
Yeah, it's all good.
back in the building.
All right. So what we got? What we got today?
Hey man, I seen y'all brothers was having a good conversation about ye are gods.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Last week, man.
And by your request, we're gonna continue on in that vein, that conversation.
Yeah.
So what, like, recap on like where you left off with it.
What did we leave off with?
Well, we left off with you explaining the books that you had earlier, but
Right.
I think the last thing that we was talking about was actually when we was coming out of the scriptures about John 8. Is it John 8?
I don't remember.
Well, it was Psalms 82
Right.
or whatever. And I think we was going in from there, explaining what we see in the scriptures. But like I think like I was saying last week, it's a lot left. You know,
There's
there's
a lot of places we can go. A lot of things we could highlight even more.
Yeah.
You know.
And and when you came in this week and said that you want to touch a little bit more, so I was like, yeah, because there's a lot left up there, and how I can explain it and would explain it if I didn't use any books or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can go in and show it that way. But you know, like I say, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, we're not here to make anybody believe anything we say. You know, whatever your reality is for you or your conscious level is for you. If you don't see that you're God, then that's you. You know, I can't control that. I only can control me and what I understand and what I've been given.
So one of the things that we touched on was the concept of God, G-O-D.
Right.
And I mean, me presenting my perspective is like, for the sake of conversation, we could talk about God, but I would have to let somebody know where I stand with that word, since there's been so much distortions of the word G-O-D.
Yeah.
So for me, that which all comes from wouldn't be G-O-D. It would be, we could use another term called a source. You can call it God, but I would say it's above the concept of God because it's unnameable. What's the word? It's so magnanimous. You can't really, if you put a thought to it, you've already made it something.
You've made it common.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So from that source comes fractals of itself, and we can call these fractals gods. Let's just say if that source, and I'm only speaking from what has been given to me in understanding, and that somebody else could have a whole completely different understanding or a better articulation of how I'm explaining it.
Right.
So let's just say that source had the will to be I am, or I will create, or I will manifest. Every fractal that comes forth from that is the same thought. I will create, I will manifest.
So like a lot of what you are describing is these are grammatical sentiments that you explain, not necessarily ideological.
Right.
So like one thing I would say like about the term God and its usage is that it has been conflated over time to push a certain type of thinking upon people. And I'm not saying that thinking is bad or good, right? But I know that there are several scholars on biblical literature, if we want to go that route, right? But as you kind of really get into that, if you allow yourself to be trained to see the differences, you really can pick up on, the ideological pushes, and you can draw a distinction between what you see grammatically
Right.
in the which are some of the points that you're highlighting.
Right.
Right. I am, I will be, I will create. These are all actions, verbs, right, that attach themselves to the expressions of these nouns, personal pronouns, and so on and so forth. So, and there's so much of it in the I'm gonna say in the redacted form of the biblical interpretation. Now, you really have to dig that up and dig it in to see that, but it's definitely there.
All right. So, continuing on from that, we got into the point that, okay, so all these fractals of that source, we can call these guys, and they go forth and create. And if you look at it as these entities, we'll use that term, these entities go on to create galaxies, universes, dimensions, and so on and so forth. And then you have the furthest you move away from that source, the further you fall into a different vibrational frequencies. And when I say further away, you can't get away from the source. But these beings can create dimensionalities for themselves to have experiences. Hence, we're having a human experience.
Right.
But we are still aspects of that source. We are gods.
Right.
And whereas we may be as manifested in physical matter, and let's just say we are, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a baby. Young, youthful souls as human beings.
Okay.
You have beings that had experiences in human form or humanoid form, or how many, whatever terms you want to use for it. They look like us, but they're not us.
Right.
Because we're adapted for this planet.
Right.
They came from other places and interacted with earlier humanity.
Right.
And these beings were called gods.
Right.
Or it gets translated in our texts as these were the gods or the devas or sky people, Elohim, Anunnaki, so on and so forth. There's different terms for them. And I am proposing that even when you read the scripture, Yahweh is one of these beings. Because, say again?
You didn't say aliens.
You can use the term.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
I'm
that
just
term.
saying you use all the terms. Devas.
Okay. Right. Somebody might say aliens.
Right.
But it's all through the text. You just have to see it. And people see it, but there's always someone that preceded you came up with a curriculum, a way, someone could say an agenda, or a way to view it that you supersede your own logical reasoning and create these different stories of, well, that's the Most High.
Right.
Or El Elyon, or El.
Right.
But like even with those terms, right? And I'm not gonna try to like really get into a grammar lesson or nothing like that, right? Elohim has it carries a pluralistic theme with it,
Right.
right? It's not singular like Elyon.
Right.
You can't even I'd be very hard pressed to see if you could carry a pluralistic theme with the term Elyon.
Right.
It just to the point that you're making, right? You really making a distinction here, man. So it's just like, well, what you're saying is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, no, that was it.
Okay. So we could stop there because we're probably going to get into it more, right?
Right.
Another thing that we talked about what we look at as sin.
Right. Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
that was the last part.
That was the last part.
Yeah.
Okay. So from my perspective,
Sin and Elohim. Okay.
sin is any deviation from the highest aspect of what you are.
Okay.
So just like I said, these entities or these fractals of the source create universes, galaxies, dimensions. You have what we would consider the opposite of that. Miscreation, or I'm just using terms, don't get lost in the words, or creating it in the negative.
Mm-hmm.
But is that even a real thing, or is it a dimensionality of that's because you can't create yourself. You can't destroy that which really is all. So these entities create realms and dimensions that would project the opposite of what we would consider creation,
Right.
or what we would consider love light. So we may use the term negative. Some people might use the term evil. Some people might use the word demon.
Demons. Right.
So on and so forth. But these beings have a purpose, just like the light beings have a purpose. It's the one infinite, the one unfathomable, the one I forget all the different terms we use. Help me out here. Unfathomable.
You know what I'm gonna say?
Well, go ahead, bro.
The nothing.
The nothing.
Whatever that is.
Right.
Right?
It's not anything.
Right.
Semantics.
Yeah, it's the all.
Right.
Words.
Words, man.
So,
In the beginning.
or in a beginning.
In a beginning.
But I digress. We could get it rolling.
Yeah.
Right. It says in the beginning was the word.
Right.
So the question is, was that word I am? Because then you're dealing with am as a verb.
Yeah.
Which means action.
Oh, I would.
To
That's the
spread
action.
out.
That's the action.
Or was in the beginning? Was there any words? Was that thought even?
Well, I'm just talking about I'm just speaking from the verse.
Oh,
From the verse being that was the action. Because if you have the Most High or whatever that is, as you say, it would be self-realization that would be the first creation. To recognize itself. I am.
Or to be. Or I be.
Right. Which goes back to when I talked about the hieroglyph.
Right.
That was the self-realization. So what I was talking about, the question you asked me about the text I was talking about earlier, when you said, what did they say about Yahweh?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm paraphrasing, but the phrase was, for some reason, the all recognized itself and decided it wanted to replicate itself. For some reason. In the text, they called it the Godhead.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they was viewing it was the all. It wasn't the God, as like we're talking about. It wasn't Yahweh yet.
Right.
But when it got to the point that it was Yahweh, it was totally, like he said, totally different from the Godhead.
Right.
all right.
But where they were going with it was, by the time it got to modern Christianity, they took the expression of the Godhead and made that
Yahweh.
the focus.
Right.
Right.
And the Godhead became kind of obsolete.
Got you.
That's
because
interesting.
no one wants to say that Yahweh was created. Hell, Yahweh ain't putting up with that, for real.
Yahweh's a entity of war.
The concept of Yahweh is not putting up with someone created me or something created me.
Right.
But it would have to be that way.
Right.
That also goes into like what is it, Gnosticism?
Yes.
With Yelzebub.
Which
He said, besides me there is no other, and it's like, you lie.
right.
You lie.
Right.
Yeah.
I could be guilty of that if there's a tag put to me on any way. I would say agnostic.
Right. Gotcha.
When the more I read and the more that I get an understanding of how I feel about what I'm reading, I'm like, okay, that's how I feel.
Gotcha.
And the term that they put on it is Gnosticism. And I don't have a problem with it until I change. And eventually I will. Change is definitely, change is going to happen, but as of right now, that's how I look at it. It's like, yeah, I can go with the Gnosticism. I can go with being a Gnostic.